Okay.
Okay, so we're live here at the home of mainstream media reporter Laddie Reed, along with Portland-based transportation expert Jarret Walker, the author of Human Transit, as well as the blog humantransit.org. And Jarret, welcome to the home of Laddie Reed.
Yeah. Thanks very much. We're glad to be here.
And yeah, Laddie, advertising, mainstream media, sponsored by Gresham Ford.
Yeah.
But Laddie, a huge political and public transit advocate for mainstream media and for the city of Portland, so we're excited to do this interview.
Yeah.
And Laddie, you've got a number of questions written down here. I don't know if Anthony would like to read those, or if you would like to do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, Laddie thought up all these questions here. I just took dictation. Okay, so first question, what sort of work, Jarret, did you do before becoming a public transportation specialist?
Don't do it the way I did it. I was interested in too many things, and so although I was a teenage transit geek who hung around TriMet when I was a teenager, and in the 1970s, I then went off and did something completely different. I did a PhD in a literature field, and before I came back finally to transit in my 30s. I think the story of how I did it is just the story that there are actually many ways to do it, and I've always been very interested in encouraging people with lots of different backgrounds who are interested in transit to get involved in transit issues.
Good.
All
right. Next question: what are the factors that go into an effective and smooth public transit system?
Well, there are so many, and we have there's a whole world called operations, which is about the drivers and the mechanics and which is going to be a lot of your actual experience of the service when you interact with bus drivers and so on. That's the whole operations side of the agency, actually getting the service on the street and doing so reliably. There's a whole world of communications, which is about getting the information out in the right forms where people can use it. And then there's the whole world of planning, which is really where I'm in, which is about the actual design of the service, figuring out the patterns of the routes and schedules, deciding whether to build rail lines or bus lines and where to build them and all that. Those are probably the three biggest, corners of the big triangle of what transit agencies have to do.
Okay. And then next question: how does Portland's own TriMet measure up to your ideal of your ideal transit system?
Well, I try to measure cities against their own ideals and not just against mine. You could go to Houston and complain that it's not like Portland, but Houston's not trying to be like Portland. They have different values and different goals, and that's fine. I think Portland has to be judged against its own stated goals, which are very, very high. And Portland wants to be seen around the world as a paradise for sustainable transportation. And in that context, I think we'd have to agree that the decline, that the series of serious service cuts that have been happening since 2008 have been a serious issue. And we really can see and can quantify the effect that that's had on people's ability to get around. I'll give you a very simple example. We're sitting here inside a beautiful machine called the East Side Grid. The north-south and east-west lines on the east side were originally designed to all run every 15 minutes all the time, so that you could go from anywhere to anywhere else on the east side by just going up and over, and you just have to make one connection.
Yeah.
But the system was supposed to be so frequent that the connection would be difficult. Well, what's happened, especially since 2009, is that those frequencies have started to be cut. Routes that you used to run every 15 minutes now run every 20 or 25 minutes. Out in the suburbs, of course, it's much worse. Routes that used to run every 30 minutes now run every 60 or don't run on weekends or whatever. But what that means inside of Portland is that once routes run less frequently, the connection becomes much harder.
Yeah.
And so the whole possibility of getting around the east side, and by the east side, of course, we mean most of the dense part of Portland. We mean most of Portland's transit market. that's really been in decline since 2009, and I think everyone understands that. There've had to be some very difficult choices in the context of TriMet's financial crisis.
The blue line on the Macs. The older TriMet?
Yeah.
Was it the Rose system?
Yeah.
So what was there before TriMet?
Yeah.
Laddie's been here a long time.
I've been here a long time too. I got here in 1969.
Wow.
Different name. TriMet. Different name. TriMet.
What was the name before it was called TriMet?
Yeah.
Before it was called TriMet, there was a private for-profit company called the Rose City Bus. And in 1969, they went bankrupt. And so the public agency had to be created to keep the service running. And that's what's happened in every city in America. There are no private city bus companies anymore. That's right.
The next question?
Yeah.
In the event of like a crisis, such as the Clackamas Town Center shooting, what is the best way of notifying the public of closures or changes in the public transit system?
All a transit agency can do is put out the information quickly. They do that on their website. Transit agencies try to use every medium that they can get to easily. That can, it should be possible, for example, to sign up to get text messages from TriMet, as soon on your phone, or emails, or automated phone calls, or whatever sort of method is best for you to get the information. But and then of course I follow TriMet's Twitter feed and so on, a lot of what they put out in the social media. And I remember on that day that they were out there pretty quickly with information.
Oh, yeah.
And that too, the public agencies help each other, and for example, you should be able to quickly turn on the radio and they should know not just what's happened to the roads, but also what's happened to traffic. One of the things that I think is challenging is for the radio stations and the news stations that normally tell you about traffic information, for example, to figure out how to talk quickly about disruptions to the TriMet system. Those people don't always understand transit well enough. Sometimes they'll talk about a major problem on Max. Certainly if the steel bridge is blocked or something like that, you'll hear about that. But they may not always know how to describe transit in the way that's useful to its customers.
Hey, I'll get one more question. What name was TriMet?
You're asking for the name of what's that, laddie?
The boss.
Oh, the name of like the director? The current director of TriMet?
TriMet.
Neil. What's his?
No. The boss. The boss.
The current general manager of TriMet is Neil McFarland.
No. One more guy. What guy owner?
Owner?
Yeah.
I'm not following.
Yeah, I'm not.
So laddie, are you asking if there's like a ownership or if there's like a for-profit aspect of TriMet?
Yeah.
No. TriMet is a government agency.
What got boss now?
TriMet is a government agency. It's not TriMet.
Matt boss.
Neil's been the head of the general manager of TriMet for like 2 years now, I guess.
I think that's right.
No, Matt boss.
You're asking about the
mayor?
boss or like the structure of
Mayor.
is the mayor, like what's the mayor's role
Yeah.
in relation to TriMet with
My cowboy.
and Kits Hopper?
Yeah.
What sort of authority do they have over
Yeah.
TriMet?
Yeah.
The mayor and the governor?
That's a very interesting question.
You know what? I asked him. What got boss?
No one knows the answer to that question. I love it.
Yeah.
Jarret's gonna help us here.
Who's
here's
the
how it
ultimate
works.
boss of TriMet?
Here's how it works. There's a board of directors over TriMet,
All right.
and Neil works for them. The general manager works for them.
All right.
We have a very unusual situation here in that the board of directors is appointed by Governor Kits Hopper. The governor of Oregon appoints the board.
All right.
And so the mayor, who is now Charlie Hales,
Oh.
the mayor's role the mayor has no direct control over TriMet,
Alright.
but he has enormous influence. The decisions he makes, the priorities that the mayor of Portland expresses, do have a big impact on how TriMet thinks. Simply because Portland is is the dominant part of TriMet's market. So there's no question that the attitudes that different mayors have taken over the years have had different impacts on TriMet.
Oh, I agree.
So I'll give you an example. The last mayor, Sam Adams, tended to have a rather, he tended to be in conflict with TriMet a great deal.
I agree.
And that's ultimately like your heart being in conflict with your lungs, because TriMet is so fundamental to how people get around in Portland that where there's a conflict between the transit agency and the city, that's very, very harmful to all parties. And so I'm certainly hopeful that Mayor Hales is going to have a more amicable relationship with TriMet.
One part, attitude.
You think part of it's an attitude issue, Laddie?
On top, the bar.
From the leadership above?
Well,
Jarret probably doesn't want to comment on that too much.
I say all the time.
So I got a question. So let's just hypothetically say that there was a brand new city of 500,000 that plopped itself down in America, and they were designing a transit system. Like, what do you think cities should, if you were going to advise cities on developing their transit system for the future, what advice would you have for them?
well, you have to decide right away. First of all, let me say first of all, what transit is going to achieve in a city. The things that transit can do depend very, very fundamentally on how dense that city is, how close together people are living. The prospects for transit in a city, rather dense city like San Francisco, are much better than they are in Portland, and Portland's are much better than they are in, say, Houston or a place that's really, really low density. So that's a fact of life, that density is just how many people there are around every transit stop.
Yeah.
And that's the beginning of what determines whether transit's going to be able to run a good enough service to be attractive. So the most important thing I say about that question is really that it's the shape of your city and it's your location in the city that really determines what's even possible for transit. And when you look at TriMet, you see that they're trying to deal with that. They're trying to deal with the fact that they serve pretty dense, easy to serve places like Portland, but they also have to serve places like Lake Oswego.
Yeah.
And how much do you spend in Lake Oswego knowing that the density is so low that you'll really never carry many people? That's one of the issues they have to think about.
My put it right. I like put it right. My put it right.
Talking about one of the lines? One of the TriMet lines?
14.
The 14?
Yeah, I bet. I bet. I like that. Put it.
You think the 14's the best line in your experience?
Yeah, I know why. 19, 10, half hour.
The 19 and the 10 they run every half hour.
A half hour. Put it right. I know.
The 14's more reliable?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah, more frequent?
Got down from it, got up from it.
You're right that, and you're talking there about frequency, and frequency is just absolutely essential. What I say in my book is that frequency is freedom.
Give me a book, please.
And the reason for that is that
Give me a book.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what it says in my book.
When?
So the reason that's so important is that when you think about somebody who has a vehicle out there in the front of the house waiting for them, whether it's their car or whether it's their bicycle, they're used to being able to leave whenever they want to leave. Frequency captures how close transit gets to that ideal, right? So the 14 you mentioned, it's running every 15 minutes
Yeah.
most of the time. So there's a bus going pretty soon
Oh, yeah.
wherever you want to go. That's not true of the 10, which you and I both live in.
Oh,
Which only runs every half hour. So the 10 is a bus that you have to make an appointment with, and it constrains your life.
Adam.
Yeah, one time I falsely assumed, I made a false assumption about the 10, about how long it ran. But Laddie caught me, so we didn't make that mistake of
Right.
getting stranded somewhere late at night, depending on the 10.
I got him. I can pay. I can pay.
Egg on my face. I don't think I was protesting as much as you say, but I usually defer to you on questions of TriMet. You're pretty familiar with all the bus routes around here.
Then, someone that do,
So Portland is known, I mean, despite our criticisms, Portland's known as a progressive public transit city compared to other parts of the country. You know, I came from Phoenix, which is gradually getting more progressive, but was nowhere near Portland. I've been to Dallas and Houston and other places. You know, what do you see Portland compared to other cities, public transit wise?
I think there's no question that part of Portland's reputation really arises from the experience of living very close into downtown.
Yeah.
If you live within a mile or two of downtown,
Yeah.
then you have a lot of transit options. And you're also involved then with the whole redevelopment process that seems to be associated with the streetcar. And Portland is very good at telling a story about itself, much of which is really about just the area very close in, right? Which has a lot of nice features that have arisen, not just because of a lot of transit, but also just because of a lot of density and because it's very easy to walk there. It's pretty easy to get around on a wheelchair there, and it's relatively flat. There's the story about all of the city of Portland is not, I think, as encouraging, because we have seen, particularly as we have seen the essential bus system being cut back since 2008. And so that's a real challenge, I think, for the next mayor to figure out. I mean, one of the basic questions is how much is the mayor going to be focused on the entire city as opposed to the inner city.
Cowboy.
You're referring to Governor Kitzhaber.
Yeah.
What's your question about Kitzhaber?
But need more
Rules?
yeah. Attitude.
Rules and attitude.
Yeah.
What
So-
do you mean by that, Letty?
Right.
Are you saying those are two things that you think need changing? Like regulations,
Yeah.
rules, and attitude?
Oh yeah.
Do you
Specifically from the governor?
Do
Yeah.
you need more rules, fewer rules? What?
No, but no. Attitude. Me talk nice.
Talk nice to
But
people with disabilities?
okay.
Okay.
Oh, you're talking about like the attitude of just TriMet workers?
Yeah.
Like the way they interact
Yeah.
with people that use the public transit services?
Yeah.
And it's specifically the attitude of drivers
No.
who work for TriMet.
I told one guy, get the attitude. I told one guy, but get the
Yeah.
attitude.
Well, yeah, but I would say this, Letty, and Jerry, you can answer or not answer, but having been to many cities, I find TriMet drivers to be as friendly as
No.
any city I've been to.
Sorry.
And
Maybe, no. No.
yeah, you think the attitude could use some work, huh?
I've never been to a city where people don't complain about the attitude of the bus drivers. I think that's pretty much, and I think you have to understand what bus drivers have to deal with now. They have to deal with
Crime.
it's not just that, it's that, if they have trouble understanding someone, they don't have the skills that, the